Hey, what's going on guys, it's CLZ and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. And today we're talking about something I wasn't going to talk about originally because everyone was talking about it, but I just realized how important the Netflix buyout of Warner Brothers truly was, and I really want to get my thoughts and opinions out on it. First, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, movie theaters. Movie theaters might be on their way out because Warner Bros. Going to Netflix could possibly mean that we're not getting Warner Brothers products out in theaters. And Warner Brothers, if you don't realize, makes a lot of different movies that come out to theaters. And this is definitely a very, worrying, idea that this could happen with Netflix, but I don't think it's going to happen instantaneously. I don't think that, by next year, we're not going to see any more Warner Brothers movies coming out to theaters. That's for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason to me is that there would be public outcry from fans and people in the industry. You'd have directors and people who work with Warner Brothers being pissed off that their movies aren't being seen on the big screen, and they'd probably go to other studios that actually put their movies out to theaters. A lot of people in the, industry are very, very hard line in their opinion that theaters should be seen on screen, deservedly so. A lot of the creatives especially believe that, and there would be a lot of people getting very upset about that, but also the people who just watch the content in general. You'd have fans, people who like theaters, people who like movies, getting very upset that all these movies that should be on the big screen are now only being able to be seen on your TV at home. I mean, you had all the way back in COVID where Christopher Nolan left Warner Brothers because Warner Brothers was putting a lot of their movies only on HBO Max, or it was some deal where it was like half theater and like HBO Max was putting them out on HBO Max day one, basically. So I think the movies were still in theaters, but day one they were put on HBO Max. So most people were just watching the movies on HBO Max. Yeah, in 2021, Tenet was released simultaneously on HBO Max and theaters, and he did not like that at all, which caused him to move to Universal when he made Oppenheimer. So if Netflix moved all of these movies that are slated to be out in theaters onto Netflix, a lot of people who are working in Warner Brothers right now would be extremely pissed off. But also on top of that, some movies that Warner Brothers makes would be more smart to put on theaters than just play them on Netflix or, only put on HBO Max to watch streaming, because some movies would just make more money streaming. I mean, not streaming, in theaters. Some movies can rake in still billions of dollars. Not a lot, but some. Like, there's still a lot of movies out there that Warner Brothers has, a lot of IP that Warner Brothers has, especially with Justice League picking up. Those movies could easily make $1 billion down the road. If not $1 billion, definitely a lot of money that would not be made if you just put it onto streaming. But what I do think will happen in the context of Netflix and HBO Max and theaters, what I think will happen is that Netflix will slowly phase out movies from Warner Brothers being put out into theaters. They'll slowly phase it out. They'll make it at one point to where it'll be, it'll be a shorter window of time where it's out in theaters, and they'll be put on streaming while it's still in theaters. They'll shorten that window, and then they'll have it where they'll shorten it to where it's out of theaters and it's only on streaming to a shorter window, and then they'll make it to where, hey, this movie now is a HBO Max exclusive or a Netflix exclusive, and they'll just slowly shorten the window down and take away movies that are supposed to be in theaters and put them into streaming slowly over the years. Not this won't even happen in 5 years. I think in 10 years and maybe in a decade at that point, it will be fully phased out, and that because they're smart. They know that people are going to be pissed if by next year no movies are out in theaters. They're not going to do that. They know the outcry would be insane unless they're just stupid. They're going to do it over a long period of time where people don't really realize, and when they do, it's like, oh, I guess they're doing that now. I guess they're just moving it now to only streaming. I guess we're seeing Dune 3 now only on streaming, like Justice League, HBO Max exclusive. But no, Netflix is smart. They're going to play the long game. They're just going to make movies come out of theaters at a shorter time. They can make them only be out there for like 3 weeks, then 2 weeks, then 1 week. They're just going to shorten it over the years, man. And it sucks. It really does. It really, really does suck. But it's just symbolic of how the industry is moving. I mean, I made it in my recent video, how the movie stars are dying or whatever. I talked about that, how movie theaters used to own, I guess, the means of seeing movies. They own the supply of seeing movies. You could only go to them if you wanted to see good entertainment. And now that just isn't the case anymore. A lot of people are fine sitting at home and watching a movie. They're fine with that. And that's just the way it's moving. It's just the way it is. A lot of people who are watching this video like to go to the theater still and watch movies, but the vast majority of the population are really just not going to the theater like that. That's just the truth. I hate that. I love going to the movies. I'm gonna miss one day where I'm not seeing movies anymore in the theaters because they're not coming out. They're just not coming out anymore. I want that. But a lot of people out there they don't care, and that's totally fine. That's just the way it is, right? And now you have this new guard of Netflix that is basically like the symbolic representation of streaming in this new era of movies and entertainment. And you have them now buying up this old legacy media that's been around forever and kind of represents the last holdout of theaters and just the classic experience of what entertainment was and what it is. It's a very interesting thing on the topic of like entertainment business and how it's kind of changing. It's really symbolic of what's happening now, of people don't really care about going to theaters. Like I said, it's very symbolic of that. It really is. It really just shows that the streaming tech giants are on the way in and the legacy media is on the way out. Netflix did announce that films made by Warner Bros. Will continue to be launched in cinemas and that Netflix will keep producing content for its own platform. But then you have the co-chief executive Greg Peters, who said Netflix believed the HBO brand was important for consumers, but added, "We think it's quite early to get into the specifics of how we're going to tailor this offering for consumers." And that could mean, hey, Warner Bros. Will still be completely basically independent. HBO Max will be its own thing. We'll still have, Warner Brothers movies out in theaters. It'll be the same basically, Or that could mean completely we own it. Warner Brothers movies will be out on Netflix by next year. And no more theaters, no more Warner Brothers movies out in theaters. You will be watching Dune 3 on your laptop. Congratulations, buddy, get fucked. For my last little point here, how does this affect the actual consumer, not on a movie theater level? Not, because that doesn't really affect everybody. Not everybody enjoys going to the theater, once a week or once every 2 weeks. Not everyone enjoys that. Some people go maybe twice a year, right? Not everyone cares about that. But are prices going to be increased? Will Netflix and HBO Max prices be increased? Will we have to pay more for what we're getting? Who knows, right? I really don't know. Knowing corporate greed, it's probably going to get more expensive. They're probably going to bundle it or something and make it cheaper to bundle it. Something like that. Try and get you in that ecosystem. But yeah, I don't know how it's going to work. I really have no idea. But knowing corporate greed, yeah, they're probably going to increase prices. Also, another little side tangent thing. Who even knows if this deal is going to go through, because this could be seen as a monopoly, but knowing how things are going right now in the United States, who knows if it's going to be seen as a monopoly or not, because you literally have the biggest streaming service in the world right now buying out the fourth biggest streaming service, but really the third biggest streaming service, because the second is Prime, doesn't really count. So really it's the first buying the third biggest streaming service, which is like kind of fucking nuts, man. But it's fine. It's fine, dude. Doesn't really matter. Peace. Have a good one. I'll see ya. Theaters might be dead, but who cares? I'm loving life. See you guys later. Have a good one.